Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today's gonna be a quick video about curing mites on reptiles. So mites are basically like fleas on dogs. They just feed off of your animal and they're no good, so you want to get rid of them as soon as possible. So how does a reptile get mites? So mites don't just appear from nowhere. They have to come from the outside or another animal that has mites. So for example of this, if you go to a reptile show and then you're handling an animal that might have mites, you come home without sanitizing your hand or washing them, and then you start handling your own animals, that would transfer onto them because mites can easily transfer to reptile. The reptile also, they lay eggs like crazy, so you do not want them to start spreading all over your enclosures and all over your other animals. Another example would be if you were to get a new reptile that has mites and then you don't quarantine them, so you just add them quickly to your setup where you have all your other animals. They lay eggs like crazy and they can transfer to enclosure to enclosure, so that's another way that mites can appear in your collection. Okay, so two ways to prevent that. One is to sanitize and wash your hands when you are handling different kinds of animals, and two is when you get a new pet, check for mites. So when you're checking for mites, you want to check for they're really small, little tiny black dots around this area under the arms and the neck, sometimes in their ears, and then also back in their legs and tails around here. So just check everywhere. Another thing you can do is just wipe them down all in those areas, and then check your hand and see if you see black little dots on there. Also ask the breeder about it, and just check for them, guys, because you do not want to deal with mites. They are awful, and if you do have to come across mites, then I'm gonna show you what to do. See, right after him, make sure you sanitize, guys. I always take the extra precaution just to sanitize my hand, also because what if you forget? What if you go eat right now? You just never know. So always wash your hands and sanitize your hands when you're dealing with any kind of animals. Okay, so now that you know how to prevent them, I'm gonna show you how to cure them if you happen to have them. And if you clicked on this video, you probably have mites on your reptiles, so we'll get through this together, guys. Okay, so first step you want to do is take the reptile out of the enclosure and put them in a container with water. The reason you want to do that is because mites do not swim. They will drown, so that will kill a few of the mites that are on the reptile already. And the next thing you want to do is you want to clean the enclosure. So first step is to take out all the substrate, because that substrate is full with eggs and mites already, so you just want to take that all out, replace that. And then you also want to clean the whole enclosure, the glass and the bottom of it and everything in there. So I would use Dawn dish soap, clean it all out, rinse it all out. Same thing with the decorations and hides that you might have in there. You just want to wash that all off. And then if you have bark in there, you might want to bake that or boil that, because that thing is full with eggs and mites in there. So after you clean out the enclosure and replace the substrate, you want to get these two things. So this is Preventamite and this is a reptile spray. So this is for your animal and this is for the enclosure. So first we'll start off with this. This is kind of harder to come across. I've seen this at the reptile shows, but I'll put a link in the description of where you can get this. And then this one is more common, so you'll find these at like a reptile store near you. So first we'll start with this. So this is a spray. It's basically a poison that will kill insects, so you want to be very careful when you're dealing with this. Make sure you have this in a well ventilated area and it's not near any of your feeder insects, tarantulas or scorpions, birds. Make sure this is away from all your other animals and feeder insects in a well ventilated area. So what you want to do is shake this thing up and just spray in the enclosure, in the substrate. Mix the substrate, spray it again in there, but not too much where it's just like, you know, dripping on the side of the glass. Just enough where it's basically it's gonna be like a vapor, like it's gonna be very moist and foggy in there. That's what you want to have it. And then you're gonna cover the enclosure, the screen top, with like a paper towel or basically anything, just to let it sit in there for a little bit. You're gonna see very foggy in the tank. And then after that, you're gonna take off the paper towel, open the lid and let it ventilate, let all the vapor come out, and wait for it to dry. You do not want to put your animal in there when it's like that. And also, before you spray this, make sure you take out the water bowl in there, because you do not want this going on your water bowl. You do not want your animal licking this stuff, okay? So after you spray this, after it's dried up in your enclosure, you don't see it anymore, just take a quick sniff at it. It'll be fine for you if you notice that it's dried. Make sure you can't really smell it or the smell has completely gone away. That's when it's safe to put your reptile in there, because you do not want your reptiles inhaling this thing. It's bad for them. And then you want to repeat that process every 2 weeks with this. So change out the substrate, take your reptile out before you spray this with a water bowl, and then just spray it down, wait for it to dry, and then put your animal back in there. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to mention about this is that you want to feed your reptiles outside of the enclosure because this is no good for the feeder insects. Okay, next up is this spray. So this spray is meant for your reptile, to apply it directly on your reptile. You'll have to be careful with this spray because you do not want it getting in their eyes, ears, or mouth because it would cause irritation and it would just burn their eyes and they'll just be like trying to take it off. It's not good for them. So what I do is either spray it on a cloth and then wipe it on them, or kind of cover their head and just spray it on their back, and then after that wipe it all over their back, under the armpits, and everywhere on the stomach. So yeah, really simple. Spray directly on the reptile, avoid the eyes, mouth, ears. Don't overdo it with this where it's running off of the reptile. Just spray a little bit. They don't need that much. Just a little squirt of this will kill off the mites, and then do this every 3 days. And then once again, these two products will be down in the description below. Alright guys, and that basically wraps it up. You do that process for about 60 days just to make sure that the eggs and mites are all killed off, and also be sure you keep them in a separate room from your other animals. If you are currently dealing with mites right now, I know it's a very hard and stressful process, but you got this. You'll get through this. And then for the rest of you, I've told you how to prevent the mites. So first is to sanitize your hands when you are dealing with different kinds of animals. Second thing is to check for mites when you are purchasing them. Little black dots are really hard to notice, but try to look for them. And the third thing is to quarantine your animals before you bring them and add them to the rest of your animals. So do that quarantine process for about a month to 60 days to prevent any kind of contamination in your whole collection. That would be a nightmare. Imagine having your entire collection full of mites. Oh, I'm just so thankful that hasn't happened to me. Okay, I hope that video was helpful. If you have any questions, comment down below. I'll try to help you out. So today's post notification shout out goes to PJ Herb-Keeper. Thank you so much for turning on the post notifications. Whoever else will want a post notification shout out, be sure you turn them on and then comment down below when done so that I know who has done that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.